welcome back. I'm Tedward, and today, thanks to Bond Group in Waltham, Massachusetts, we are driving a 1958 Porsche 356A, but this is a Rod Emory special. This is probably one of the most insane vehicles I will ever feature on this channel. It is absolutely outrageous because Rod Emory and his family are essentially the people who coined the term outlaw. Outlaw doesn't mean you're running from the police. Most people think of outlaws today because they've learned about it through Magnus Walker. But back in the day, outlaws were just not original Porsches. Essentially, Rod Emory comes from a family of custom fabricators. So they were chopping and changing these 356s, and they were not necessarily invited or allowed into the Porsche shows because they weren't original cars. And so they said, well, we're not one of them, so we're outlaws. And that's how this whole thing was born. So when you think of a Porsche Outlaw, don't think 911, think 356. But instead of having a small, 70 horsepower pushrod four-cylinder, this has a twin plug 911 engine, but it's not a flat 6, it's a flat 4. There's a special guy who is out there building these beautiful 4-cylinder flat 4s, and this one has 911S cam profile. It has a 901 gearbox, so it's actually a dogleg 5-speed, not just the little 4-speed that you get in your typical 356. The rear suspension is 901, and this thing is just an unbelievable hot rod. It makes 185 horsepower, and if you're thinking, hey man, this thing looks pretty darn familiar, well, it was featured on Jay Leno's show about 7 years ago. I believe that's his signature on the glove box. We'll get to that in a minute, but first, let's just take in the body lines. This is, the 356 Coupe is already incredible. This wasn't originally a sunroof car, that was installed later, and it's electronic. I really love the way they cut out this hood for the fuel tank. That's fantastic. We do the fog lights, we trim the bumpers, we get them in nice and tight. Even these headlights are pretty funky because they're caged, but there's no glass there, so that's pretty unique as well. He custom fabricates pretty much everything on these cars, so even these wheels are special. They have annular brakes, which means, yes, they are four-wheel discs. However, the calipers, instead of grabbing from the outside in, they actually grab from the inside out. It's very bizarre when you see this up on a lift. In Porsche font, we've got special to tell us what it is. Now, this one's a special, not an outlaw, because the outlaws were typically based on more original cars. They were gussied up and hot rodded, but this one I think originally started as a bit of a rusty project. So there's a lot of unique things in custom fabrication to make this, which is why it gets the designation of special rather than outlaw. These mirrors are basically set up to look like the Carrera mirrors, or the 356 GTs. Even 550 Spiders had similar mirrors to that. And then Rod Emory loves louvers. So on this side, the louvers cover the fire suppression bottle, which I genuinely appreciate to have in this car. And on this side, the louvers cover an oil cooler with an electric fan. So that's very cool. We are ready to rock and roll. And this is definitely a car that you're gonna go rip around in hot California weather. So it's nice to know that it's gonna stay cool, even if you're in traffic. You see these big oil feed and return lines down here to send to another oil cooler up front, and that's always nice to see when they are fresh, because when those let go, it is not pretty. Let's take a look under the hood, because this is a marvel of an engine. Back here, pardon my stuff, there's really no room in the front. We'll show you that in a second, so I've got to kind of pack all my stuff in here. Now, I watched Rod Emory do this, so please do not get mad at me that I am folding this gently back like so. He designed it this way. This is what he did on Jay Leno's show, and he specifically said it was okay. So I'm gonna do it, okay? Anyway, with that out of the way, here we see our beautiful Weber carburetors. This is just so gorgeous to look at. But essentially what you're looking at is the foundation of a 964 3.6 liter flat 6 that's been chopped into 4 cylinders. That is how cool this is, and it sounds phenomenal. You'll notice down here, these little covers down here, they only go to Porsche. There's no Porsche, so this actually is a Porsche. But that goes to show you that this is just like a chopped 3.6 liter. So instead of a 3.6, it's a 2.5 liter. And then we've got our 356 Outlaw emblem and our very cool Nürburgring emblem. That's actually maybe one of the coolest Nürburgring things I've ever seen. Now, this is all custom fab too, because you'll notice this B pillar, it's chopped and leaning forward. That's all custom. Even the glass on the doors is really wild. Let's see if we get this up a little bit. Look at the lean on that. How insane. Everything on this is like a proper hot rod. And instead of having some big long shift throw, this has a Wilhoit short shifter in it. So it is actually really tight. This is just unlike any 356 experience I've ever encountered. This little roll cage is great. We've got 4-point harnesses, kind of nice, I suppose. I do not want to get in an accident in this little car. Let's take a look in the frunk. To fuel up this little special, you'd have to come through here, open this, and then we'll prop that up like so on the hinge. There we go. That's nice. And then there's your fuel filler cap. Nice, safe fuel cell, a spare tire. But like I said, there's really no room for stuff unless you popped this out and shoved it all in the bottom there. So I am going to keep my stuff in the back of the car. But anyway, I could go on like this forever. I think it's the most beautiful thing ever. Let's go out and drive the dang thing, because that's the beauty of a Rod Emory car. These are not supposed to just sit in a showroom. They are supposed to be driven. So let's do just that. To get the 356 started, we've got our Outlaw keychain attached to our key. We've got a good neutral. Jump into this ignition over here. There's no choke. Give it a little bit of fuel and a little bit of gas. Jumps right to life. Happy car. Now, any of you familiar with 356s are going to notice the 7,000 RPM tachometer, probably a little out of place. Normally, they only rev to like 4,500 or so. They're not high revving engines, but this obviously is not your typical 356. So we've got our floor mounted pedals. That's familiar, beautiful interior. I love these seats. And we have a 911R steering wheel. The steering rack is original, just rebuilt. All right, let's see. With our harness, let's see if I can release my parking brake. Oh boy, I may have made a huge mistake here. All right, lesson learned. Release the parking brake before you jump in your harnesses. And like I said, this is a dogleg 5-speed, so reverse is over and forward. First is over and down. It weighs 1,900 pounds and has 185 horsepower. So you do the math. That is pretty darn quick in terms of power to weight ratios. The brakes, well, they're disc brakes, so we know we're not going to run out of brakes like we would on maybe a drum brake, but they take a lot of effort. In a straight line, that's comforting. Oh, really comes alive around 4,000 RPM. It's a screamer, man. So much fun. What an outrageous vehicle. And you can use it, you can thrash it, you can actually exploit its capabilities. So, let's just get an impression of what this is like to drive. First of all, for a 356, this thing is tight as a drum. incredibly easy to manipulate and toss into corners. The rear end, because it's a 901 rear end, that suspension gives you so much more confidence than you would get in like a typical 356. I'm actually just shocked at how easy this is to drive. Like, I would select this over pretty much anything else. It's my Canyon Carver given the choice out in California. I really love the fender mounted mirrors, although that one's not adjusted very well for me. Gotta have a friend to help you with that. The beauty of having such a small car is that in a modern car, modern large sports cars, they're so wide that you can't really choose a line through a road. In this, I have so much room between the center line and the fog line that I can actually select a line in my lane. It's a beautiful thing. This is the ultimate toy. This is the ultimate backroad toy where you want to be a little speed racer, but you don't have a ton of room to do triple digit speeds, which is most of us. Most of us don't have that opportunity. Oh my goodness, I'm in love. This costs way more than I can afford, pal, but if I had the money, I would 100% be contracting Rod to build me something like this. Look at that, takes the bumps. It's just dialed in. Oh. Look at that low end torque too. Oh, big branch, we'll get out of the way of that. The brakes are like a block of wood. Old Porsche stuff. You've got to get way deep in there and give it the beans if you want to stop in a hurry. So I'm officially in love. This is one of my favorite Porsches I have ever driven. And the beauty is that it's not all Porsche. It's like the culmination of generations of experience coming together to build something out of a variety of Porsches to make this experience happen. That is so beautiful. And I'm so happy and thankful that the Porsche community seems to be accepting things like this, in the last decade, more so than ever before. Outlaws are no longer to be snubbed or scoffed at. This is a desirable vehicle. This is something you strive for. And that's why it's signed by a handful of people. I actually don't know all those signatures, but I would wager that one right there on the end, 61515, I think that's Jay Leno from when he did his episode with this car. And I'll tell you, he seemed to be having a good time in it. I don't think he even gave it enough credit. This is so good. And he looked like he loved it. So, thank you so much to Bond Group for tossing me the key to probably the coolest, most special I could get my hands on. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive. And thank you, Rod Emory, for your years of experience building cool stuff, because this brought real joy to me right now. There's a spicy Beetle. Everybody loves this thing, man. Oh, I couldn't be happier. Thank you. See you in the next one. Oh, listen to that little bit of gear whine. Oh, that's my favorite. This thing is just raucous. It shifts like a drag car. It handles like a race car. This is the sporting experience. This is what I want. I want minimalism. I want refinement. I want power. I want tactility. I have everything in this car. And cherry on top, style for days.